So trying to figure out which cam to try. I went with a mid-range cam, the Tiada T100. If it makes it quicker, I'll be happy with that. But I don't want to lose top speed either. So we're going to find out on this stock motor what it does. That situation there with the 3 dots only happens one time during the 4 cycles of this engine. So the dots are here, here, and one up top, the big one up top in the middle. This represents top dead center on the compression stroke. Top dead center on the compression stroke is where we're going to adjust valve lash. But we also change the cam on top dead center on the compression stroke. The only reason why is it's a known position, so we won't get the cam mixed up. The cam rides on this chain. If that chain gets one link off in either direction, it's going to either retard or advance the cam timing. And it could have piston to valve contact and bend your valves, destroy your engine, or it could just make it run crappy. So the crank goes to top dead center 2 times per 4-stroke cycle. This only goes 1 time. So when we're doing valve lash, as long as it's here, we know that we're top dead center compression. We don't really have to verify what the crankshaft is on with the timing mark on the flywheel. But when we're changing the cam, we want to be able to verify that just to make sure we didn't move this chain, to make sure we have this chain in the right position. So it's important to verify top dead center on the flywheel and these 3 dots both when doing a cam change. I don't like to try to look in that little hole. It's too hard to do, so I just pop this cover off and to verify top dead center on the crankshaft. So top dead center, it looks like, it appears on this one, is when that little tab, let me see if I can do all this, this little tab right here is lined up with this funky little arrow right there. Because I've got the cam on top dead center right now, I'm assuming it was put together right, and that's where it lines up with. Now this top dead center mark on this flywheel, it happens twice. It's going to happen once, like it is now on the compression stroke, and if I roll this all the way around, it's going to happen again on the exhaust stroke, we'll call it, and when it's letting the exhaust out of the cylinder, and it's going to go to top dead center to push the exhaust out before it sucks the intake in. And on that one, the 3 dots on the cam, that large hole is going to be upside down. It'll be, you won't be able to see it, it'll be down inside the engine, and the 2 other dots will be lined up. You may get an engine with no cam in it, let's say, and you don't even know where to start. Well, you get the crankcase on top dead center, the crankcase and the piston. They don't know if it's a compression stroke or a exhaust stroke. There's no difference, it's just top dead center. The head and the cam and the timing of the valves knows if it's the compression stroke or exhaust stroke. And so you'll line the cam up like this, and you've made that the compression stroke. So the reason the compression stroke is good for setting valve lash is on the compression stroke, these valves aren't being pushed by that cam lobe on either intake or exhaust. If they were, the bike wouldn't make compression. That's why we want that little gap, that little air gap of 0.004 inches between each of these valve stems on the compression strokes. And you can check that just by the dots on setting the valve lash. When you're doing the cam, always check the flywheel. Don't trust you put it in here the exact same, because you will. This chain will move, and when it moves 1 notch, you won't even notice it. So you have to verify that you have top dead center crank and then 3 dots compression stroke. These 4 bolts that hold your cam carrier on, they are also your head bolts. They're holding your cylinder to your engine and your head to your cylinder. Very important to get the torque right on these, and we're going to use 13.5. There's a black cover right here. I'm going to see if I can do this without pulling the plastics off. This little cap right here, it's a Phillips to take it off. We're going to see what's in there. But there's some kind of spring-loaded tensioner that rides on a nylon bushing that pushes pressure on this cam chain. So as that cam chain loosens, it takes up the tension and doesn't change the timing. It keeps it tight down here where it counts, the way it's turning. So we're going to have to release the pressure on that to get this cam out. And then once we get the cam, the new cam in, we're going to reapply the pressure here, and it should be spring loaded. So it looks like there's a little O-ring in there. I'm going to take that out so don't damage it. That little flathead screw in there, we'll turn that probably, we'll try clockwise and see if it pulls the tension off that chain. They make a tool, that's what these little notches are for. Once you pull the tension off, you can push it down in there and the tool gets bigger and it stays in those notches and it holds the tension off. I'm just going to do it with a screwdriver. I'll throw a pair of vice grips on the screwdriver to keep it from spinning back in place and reapplying tension. Turn it clockwise, it's pulling the tension off that cam chain. And when I release it, see how it spins back on its own? So we'll do it like that. We'll just turn it clockwise. We'll hold it in place with the screwdriver. Twist your screwdriver in. And you can feel that spring coming up, and now you can feel how loose this chain feels. It's actually difficult to get that cam chain on and get the cam in the right position. So a trick I do is I add an extra dot. And I'm marking that chain link right there. And with that same notch marked on the new cam, I'll be able to stick that chain right on there. When you first start your engine, there's going to be no oil up in that drivetrain of the cam that you just put in, so you don't want this nice new shiny metal rubbing on metal. So use your engine assembly lube. If you don't have engine assembly lube, just use oil. The thicker the better, but you can use your regular oil. But even some rear end oil will be really nice in there. So I just get this thing all slobbered up with oil. So for the initial crank up, it's nice and slick. Okay, top dead center on the crank, top dead center exhaust on top. Got the cam chain marked, got the tensioner held. I think we're ready to swap these cams. Lift this rocker box off. Right, so the exhaust side is marked E. Let's pull the old cam out, just lift it up, and you got to kind of turn it a little bit sideways to get the chain off. Start kicking it off at one of the edges. Once you get that edge off, roll it out of there. This is why it's so easy to get mixed up. Keep tension on that chain. Don't let it fall down in there. Don't let it get loose. We don't want the timing on the crankshaft to be off. So we don't want that chain to slip around on the crankshaft down in the engine. We'll take our new cam. It's already prepped. We'll put it in there. And so here you can see how hard it would be to try to line up top dead center and everything. That's where this yellow mark's gonna be a savior. We're just gonna try to get that yellow mark on. We'll start it at one side. And this little black Teflon wear thing up, and that's spring loaded on this cam chain tensioner. And that'll get in the way a lot. So if you can hold it up with your finger, it makes it a little bit easier. See, I've got the two yellow dots lined up that I put on there, and the cam's not aligned. So confirm we have the crankshaft lined up with what we thought was top dead center. That little funny looking arrow lined up with that tab. And we'll go back over here. Now, with all the care I took to get this exactly right, and I put that dot on there, look at that. See the mistake? That's the mistake that a lot of people in shops make. And that's why that bike will never run good, because that cam is not lined up. I moved that chain when it got slack. I actually moved it a few teeth down here on the crankshaft. So my yellow lines mean nothing. I have to have this lined up also. Now we have to go back in and roll that cam inside of that chain to get those dots lined up. All right, so I just pull up on the chain, I spin the cam. You got to kind of tilt the cam down, spin it within there. And that's lined up pretty good right there. That looks right on. Okay, now our 3 dots are lined up as they should be for the compression stroke. Top dead center. And we've got top dead center on the crankshaft. And don't just start cranking down these bolts right here. This cam has lateral movement. It has to be sitting down in the grooves in the rocker box and the cam bearing. I'm going to release my cam chain tensioner. I wouldn't just put this thing back to torque, reassemble it, and start it up. I'm going to roll it through after I torque down the head and make sure I have valve clearance. Make sure nothing touches, make sure nothing binds, make sure everything feels normal. It's just me spinning it through by hand. Once you get everything to torque, you want to set your valve lash. Tons of videos on that, so I'm not going to bore you there. Let's see if this thing starts. Oh yeah, sounds like a hot rod. That thing idle. Sounds cool. Like a hot rod. I have to turn the idle up a little bit. Alright, Tiada T100 Cam. We're hoping for faster acceleration. Like to get something on top, but it's a mid-range cam, so we'll see. We had the smoothbore carburetor, was the last thing we did, 28mm PWK flat slide, and it gave us 61 top end, but did nothing for our quickness. A little bit, 0 to 30, 4.9, and 1/8 a mile in 13.3. So I went with a mid-powered cam, so like more low end and mid power. It's supposed to be the T100, in hopes of getting this thing to be quicker. And wow, look how much faster it went, 63 miles an hour. But look at those acceleration times, 0 to 30, 3.9. That's really good. And 13.2 in the 1/8 mile, that's where I wanted to be. So what a perfect balance that cam is. And here's the funny thing, you cannot trust the seat of your pants. This bike feels slower on acceleration right now. See, look how smooth that acceleration curve is. And the box and the part number is right there. So great mod.